can do it. So, well, in the last year, I've been through my own journey with breast cancer. And, well, with the help of my husband and kids and friends, it was actually hasn't been as rough as I thought it was going to be. But, Jake, you can't cry. You got to keep it together.
I'm glad you pointed out, so they know. It's him too.
I looked around and I was like, look at what we built here with this Eco Lodge. Look at what we have with H2O. Look at what we have with Luna Vida. We have the transport. It was like, it all just made sense. Like making a retreat here in this healing place for people who have gone through what I've gone through just made all the sense in the world. It was just like this. So we have our first retreat on the books in January, and I hope, really just looking forward to that a lot as healing, for not only the participants, but maybe for myself as well.
Do you ever wish you could quit your job and pursue your dreams? Maybe that lingering business idea that's been in the back of your head? This isn't another series about million-dollar ideas. Bizpirations features stories of everyday people just like you, people just like me, but the difference is they chose to take a chance. 99% of people will stay exactly where they are. These are the 1%, the other 1% that chose to be different. Let's dive in. Ready?
Ready.
All right. Leo and Cara, thank you for having us at the Chorro Eco Lodge today. Before we get started on where we are and the businesses that you guys have, what's a story that's relevant to the audience that doesn't know you?
Well, I guess the way we met is probably a good place to start. I worked for an active travel company that sent me here to lead adventure/biking tours in 2006. And Leo had his rafting company, H2O. And for our 6-day itineraries, we did rafting as a portion of that. And so we met on the river. And then, well, the rest is history. We started dating, and I was still leading these trips all around the world. I would come back and leave for 2 months and come back. And then eventually... well, we decided we got married. We had 2 children and started a life here. I worked for that company until 2020, I guess. And that's pretty much the story, huh?
Good. Yeah, I remember the river trips. When she was in, and I tried to pull her in the water, and she went with me, like she went like
I pulled you in with me.
Yes, it was an all-in situation, and I'm like, that's cool.
Had you seen her before with Backroads, or that was the first trip?
No, we met before.
Her? Yeah.
Had your eyes on her?
Yes.
What so aside from rafting, what else do you guys like to do?
We bike,
surf, hike.
We try to stay active as much as possible.
Awesome. And where else have you lived? I know you've traveled around the world. Have you lived anywhere else besides Costa Rica and worked?
Yeah, I worked mainly related to rafting. I worked in the States. I worked also like in Europe. I worked in Italy a couple of years, a couple of seasons I worked there. I worked in Turkey.
All rafting?
All rafting.
Canada?
Canada, no, I haven't worked there.
Okay.
Actually, I haven't rafted there either.
Okay. What prompted you to get into rafting? Where you're originally from, the city?
Yes, I'm originally from San Jose. I was working for my dad's company. He had like a furniture and appliance store in San Jose. And then somebody told me like, hey, they're interviewing for river guides. I've never been on the river before. And like, I said, oh, and they're looking for someone that speaks English. I'm like, I knew English. And so I went for the interview, and they called me a week later. You're in for the school. So I made like a 1 week school. And then the last day before we finished, we went through the Pacuara River, and it started raining, and we already, we didn't know anything really at 6 days, but we thought we knew. But anyways, the river like came up, it flooded, and the guides and everybody was excited. We're excited about it, and we run the canyon. And that day, I decided that I was gonna be a river guide. That's a decisive moment.
How many years ago was that?
1992.
1992.
1992.
Yeah, long time. 31
years ago. Yeah.
Wow. And what about you? So you did the active travel, back roads. What started your journey into that?
I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I think since college, kind of made a habit of saving money, saving money, and then traveling. Actually, my first trip to Costa Rica was just after college. I did a volunteer program down on the Osa Peninsula. And then I would go back and work, and then I went to Ecuador and lived there for a year. And then I found this company a friend told me about, and they were like, I feel like you should check this out. And this was like a company that would pay me to travel. So I was like, this makes a lot of sense. So that's, I started working for Backroads at the end of 2004, worked in the office, and then spring of 2006, they sent me here, and basically I never went back. It was supposed to be like a summer deal, but
You stayed.
it's been a long time doing that, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what was the first job that you ever had?
The first job I ever had was, I grew up riding horses with my mom, and that was my biggest passion probably growing up. And I started exercising other people's horses. I couldn't ride their horses every day, and I would be out there in the summers, and I would ride other people's horses. They'd pay me a little bit of money. This was like when I was like 11 years old.
Nice.
Yeah.
And was it working at the furniture store, or what did
Yeah.
you, and what were you doing there? Like, how old were you when you first started working there?
I was young. I was maybe 10, 11. Yes. Like, you do inventory. You help here and there. You move stuff around. Like,
Helping your dad.
yeah.
All right. So, out of the jobs that you've had, like, what of those like inspired you to start your own business?
I have to say Backroads, that was, gave me just a lot of life skills. Just being in the travel industry, I was a leader, but then I was also kind of running the region, so managing other leaders and developing itineraries and experiences. And so they had really high standards on what we were selling, the journey that we were selling. And I think that became a real passion, finding something that would be memorable and meaningful and authentic while people are traveling. And so I think that definitely played a role in me being inspired to create that here in Manuel Antonio on my own.
And at what point, you're working the river, at what point did you kind of say to yourself, I'm doing this?
I'm doing this like as my work.
Yeah, you're like,
I was actually convinced too. When I started, I had a business partner, and I had some money saved, and my plan was to go to South America and get lost there a couple of years, and this guy talked me into like start a company, and like, so you have this money, instead of that, we can travel later. And so I said, okay, that doesn't sound bad either. So at that point, we came here, and like, we explored this section, we explored the other section, and it was in April, so it was very low, and this section was like real strong. In April it's good stuff. So it's not that we were gonna do it commercially, but it was still fun to play. And so and then we have the beach, so it was but I was convinced too.
And who in your life has been an inspiration, and what effects have they had on the business here for you?
Obviously, my dad, he's an entrepreneur, uh, and I worked with him a lot, and I saw him, and you know, the way he treat people, and like that's probably one of the biggest schools. And then my previous boss before, he was a Rios Tropicales owner, Rafael Gallo, and you know, this is what he did. He had a rafting company, he had a lodge, and I'm here like thinking about it. I'm like, oh wow, look at this. I have a rafting company, I have a lodge now. So.
And what about you, Cara?
I would also say my father. He was a businessman and just had this kind of natural talent to always see the big picture, and he was always a good listener and always felt like there was something you could learn from people. And then Leo, for sure, because he has always been an entrepreneur, and I always thought I could never be that. I could never do that because I just saw everything that he was always taking care of, and it just seemed like so many things. And I thought, oh no, one's enough in the family, you know. But you know, things change.
Yeah, because now we're up to 3.
Yeah.
Unless there's another one I don't know about.
Just 3 for now.
All right, so let's get into the business here. So describe where we are and what is Chorro Eco Lodge.
You do that.
I was gonna say you were better at
It
this.
was your vision.
So this place was bought to access the river for the Chorro section of the Naranjo River. This is a section that we started running in 2004. We opened the company in 2002 and we started running in 2004. At the time, nobody was running it, and this was the only access. So we asked permission to the owner, and he let us in after years. Besides the access, like, you know, it was, I thought about having land, and this was a good place. So I offered to buy to the owner, and no, actually the owner offered to sell to me, and at that point I couldn't because I was just starting like a loan with the bank for my office place, and I said no, I don't want to do this right now. I need to see if it's gonna work with that, and then so he sold it to the neighbor, and the neighbor then didn't pay what he was supposed to pay, and so he offered it to me a couple of years later, and I said, well, now I can try, yes. And so I talked to my one of my business associates, and I get the money to buy the place, and that was mainly to have the access to the river. Years later, I hired a guide, and he said, like, do you want a better way down to the river? Because we were using a steep way down because it was easier for the raft, and we'll send the people behind us. And so he made a set of stairs and around, and when he got to this point, it's a place that I've never been because I always use that. I've never been to this part, and I saw the river, and I'm like, oh wow, look at this view. So I said, I'm gonna bring people here to stay and watch the river, and here we are.
And what do we have here? Like, what services do you have at Eco Lodge?
So we have tents. We have a glamping resort. This is tents that you will have like your bed. Maybe you explain this better. Right?
Okay, so well, it started off with 2 tents. They have really nice comfy beds and ceiling fans and private bathrooms and hot showers, kind of like the things that people want no matter where they are, and just kind of like the basics, but you're out here kind of roughing it a little bit, glamping, and so we wanted to make sure they had those little things. And then we built 2 more tents that are a little bit bigger, also with private bathrooms, and we wanted to keep it really small because that's kind of what makes this place so special. And then we have this kind of communal area here that gives people the chance to be together and cook their meals if they wish. And then we have above us this kind of elevated yoga platform that has been used for yoga, daily yoga. We've had a couple retreats here, some Reiki training. We've had other kinds of retreats as well. So just kind of like a place for people to be together in nature. And enjoy their friends and their family and the river. Obviously, we have a waterfall right at the bottom of this trail here that kind of flows right into the river, and people just love it. And there's some big boulders that kids can jump off. Well, kids and big kids can jump off of, and swimming holes and things like that. So it's just it's a special place, gathering place.
Nice. And we also have Luna Vida. So what's Luna Vida?
So Luna Vida, I guess it's been about 2 years now that we've been going, and that started during right at the beginning of the pandemic when, basically anybody who works in tourism here didn't have any work, and so it gave us a lot of time to kind of sit back and think about what we wanted to do. And I think I had thought about doing my own thing for a long time, but didn't have the inspiration or the idea, and so when that hit, I was actually here sitting on a boulder down by the river, and I just thought, wow, I think I'm really ready to start my own thing. And the original idea was to do some kind of retreats and things, but then I decided that living in Manuel Antonio and having all the connections that I have here, that I wanted to do day experiences that were focused on private day experiences too. I really enjoy the kind of smaller group dynamic and experiences that are focused on nature and adventure, but also really bringing the culture into it. So the few tours that I offer always have a lunch in a local home with a woman in a community who invites us in, and she cooks for them, and people like to join in and help her cook. And it's this like really nice exchange where
They do tortillas.
yeah, they make tortillas, and we just have we share a meal together, which is where a lot of the magic happens. So there are these just day experiences that hopefully are something that people will leave Costa Rica feeling like, wow, I not only like saw and did something beautiful, but also like shared something with someone local, and they feel connected to the culture.
And what did you do to get started? So you're on the rock, you had your idea,
Boom.
you decided you're doing it.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you did?
I reached out to friends that I knew could help, asking them for ideas. I talked to Leo. I talked to anybody who I thought could, help me figure out what the next steps were. And it was just like that, that's, I think any idea, once you have it, that's what you do. You reach out and you find your resources, and people will want to help you. If it's the right thing for you to be doing, the universe will give you that. Mm-hmm. So friends were like, oh, I have this person, and she did my website, and she could help you do your branding. And so just like that, it was just, let's make steps.
And tell me about the first group you had. What was the first tour, and who was it, and what did you do?
I think the very first tour was with some friends who actually had lived here for like a year and a half, and they had friends in town, and I was just getting things started, and she's like, well, let's do it. And so we took them out to Los Campesinos, which has been a very important place for me in my business. And we do a really informative tour about the plants and the animals in the area, but there's this beautiful waterfall there and hanging bridges, and then there's this beautiful woman named Doña Corona who invites us into her home, and she cooks over her wood burning stove, and she has a trapiche, so they squeeze the sugarcane juice out, and we bring the cacique and they make a cocktail, and it's this beautiful tour. And that was kind of like the first one, and I knew like from that day on, this is, it's gonna work, and so little by little, I started gathering momentum, and it's just been kind of this like nice organic growth process, and lots of good feedback, lots of good connections.
And what about the lodge here? So you mentioned you had the 2 tents, you're using it for rafting. Were you offering it to like people to stay here when you had the 2 tents originally, or was it more like for you guys to come and get away?
No, it was always, open to the public. When we started with the 2 tents originally, after COVID, that's when we opened, like, a year ago?
We opened, I guess, 2 years ago, but things kind of started to take off
About a year.
this last like November.
And what's it like having people come and stay here?
Feels good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That we've just,
The feedback
Yeah.
is like they like it. I mean, a lot of them appreciate the work that it involves. and
yes,
so
that's probably the most
it's rewarding.
rewarding.
It's
Yeah.
really cool.
What would you say you're most proud of about Eco Lodge and Luna Vida, H2O?
I would say just all the hard work. Every rock that they brought up from the river, you know, that you see around, and just like the
44,263 rocks.
all right, you know, rough estimate.
And all from the river here.
At the beginning, yes. Then we go with the car from the river, pull them up on the truck, and then bring them down. Still, it's tough, but like it's better than from the river. The river is but yeah, from the first year, 2 years, it was all from the river.
Wow. And what obstacles, have you run into with constructing this place?
Ooh, all of them. Like the original rancho here was made out of bamboo, and it rot, so we had to replace it. We tried the water heaters with gas, and they never turned on. They never worked. Never. They never worked. What else?
Well, you know, this is the jungle, and there's a lot of rain, and so, you know, leaks in the tents, not making the roof big enough the first time, and having to like reconstruct roofs, and you know, there's falling branches all the time here, so you know, there's constant reparation happening. It kind of just never ends, really.
It never ends.
Constantly.
That's how it is.
Always something to
Yeah.
do. What do you think's been your biggest failure?
I think trying to be too eco. It's tough. It's expensive, and it didn't work.
I mean, we still try, obviously. We do everything we can, but like he was saying, you know, certain things about, you know,
We still have compost
the bamboo
toilets.
rotted in the jungle. We didn't have it cured properly. There's just certain things that we learned from, and
Yes, it's rough.
you know, a failure. I guess it's a funny word. It's more like opportunities just to do
learn.
something better and
Yeah.
learn. I mean, that's what it's all
But
about.
yeah, if somebody's gonna learn out of this, I suggest you start, you know, like something that's gonna last,
Yeah.
and then you turn something eco about it, like, you know. But yes, construction-wise, go for what is gonna last.
Yeah.
So you ripped the bamboo out, and then what have you put in place?
How do you call this in English?
A steel? Is it steel? Perling?
Yeah,
Perling is
acero,
steel, yeah.
acero, steel.
Yeah.
And then thick wood.
Teak, yeah, the teak wood was important, you know, to pick something that was going to last, and it was dried and treated, and we tried to do it right the second time. We did it right the second time, something that would last.
So far, we did it right.
Because now what's above us?
Is the yoga deck?
Okay.
And so yes, like on the other side, when I was doing the rancho was way small, the second floor at least. It was like a 4x6 meters. That's 24 meters. Now it's 66 meters square. So it's 11 by 6.
You had a floor on top of the bamboo?
No,
Oh, okay.
this no. When this came up,
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
and then it got bigger and bigger, and like the wood part wasn't supposed to be as beautiful. I never expected it to, but the guy that I hired, he did an excellent job. And at some point, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna say no to this, you know. And it took him, what, it was like 2 months
Yeah.
to finish, like the finishing part. Once all the wood was on,
Yeah.
he like just to work on the finish, on the cracks in between and everything, on all the screws.
The pegs to cover up the screws. I remember sanding
About
them
2
with our
months or more,
hands.
man. It was like eternal. I'm like, whatever, man. And you know, it's worth it.
Yeah.
And what was the day that like you finally got to show up here and like not work on something or like sit
Oh,
down?
that hasn't come yet.
Yeah.
No, but we take a lot of time with our
Well, like,
family and friends to enjoy the place,
Oh yeah,
obviously.
we
but,
come here a lot. And
But yeah, that will never end. But
Always.
not like the finishing of the fourth tent is like a good thing because now, as I tell you, it never ends. Now we're gonna start fixing and improving other stuff. Like you know, like we're fixing the stairs, the rock stairs. We also are planning to do some other work that always needed to be done, but now we have the time to work on that.
I also just want to, there's like something magical about this place. When we had, our kids are 12 and about to be 9 now. And we came here when they were just little babies, and we would come with friends, and there was just a hillside, and we would camp, and then eventually it was like, you know, let's make a flat spot so we're, you know, actually have a flat spot to put the tents. And then it was like, oh, maybe we could like put a sink in. But all our friends that would come out here just thought, wow, this place is so magical, you know? You know, so we just kept spending more and more time here, and it just kind of was this like slow process to like what we have now. And now it's like we get to bring people here, and they're staying here, and they're coming here for tours, and they look around and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And that's so beautiful, right? That everybody feels that here when they come, that kind of like the magic that the nature, you know, provides.
Okay, so let's talk about some different milestones. First, starting with H2O. So tell me about how do you go from Chorro River to raft company Manuel Antonio?
I think a very important milestone is a person that I met the year previous to where we started here, and he is still a rafting enthusiast. He loves rafting. He goes rafting everywhere, and like I talked to him about my company, and he said he would help, and he's helped since then. So it's like a continuous milestone that keeps coming in my life, and like he's trusted me, and that's probably one of the most important things that happened to H2O. Thank you, Dr. Don.
And what was it like? You know, how did you end up here of all places? I mean, there's lots of places to go rafting. Why here?
Well, it was sold to us by a friend, and she said there are only 2 rafting companies there. Nobody likes them. And it's the beach. And so we got rafting and we got surfing. I'm like, I think we should try this. And we came, and here we are. So yeah, like it was a good selling point. Like there's only 2 rafting companies there. We were in Pacuare, and there's like, at that time there were like 20. So here we came, and we were like 3. I'm like, okay, that's better chances.
And where'd you get your first trip from? How did you get your clients?
Well, we came here. It was 2 people, a couple, and like we visited hotels, and like a couple of days later they called us, and we have 2 people for tomorrow, and yeah, we went on that trip. It was like I was really nervous. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for 10 years, but like, you know, it was my trip. I was like, ah.
And what was that like at the end of it? Like, how did you drop the guests back off, or they get picked up?
We celebrated. Pretty much every day we celebrated.
Yeah.
It was a celebration thing.
And how so you start with that, and then how does Backroads eventually come into the picture?
They came immediately. We knew some people, and we talked about them. They were working with a competition, but they moved to us that same year, I think. So it was really good. We started with Backroads since the beginning.
And how did that affect H2O?
Well, it helps a lot too to have this account this strong, and they were doing 2 activities with us, so it was a pretty big account.
What activities did they do?
Rafting and kayaking in the ocean.
Do you still do the kayaking too?
We only do the kayaking now. Now they do rafting.
And they come here for lunches. They bike here and have lunch and go to the waterfall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're very involved with us.
Yeah.
When we got here, like as I told you, we were the third rafting company here. And of course we came from school, from the Pacuare, where there's a lot of other stuff like that you probably are not, or you don't want to do here. When we came here, like for example, we started running an overnight trip on the Savegre. And so we were the first ones to run rafting overnight trips on the Savegre. Then we started running this section, the upper section of Chorro, and we were the only ones for years running this. And like that, we were also like the first ones that started doing tubing trips, tubing tours. And like that, those are the tours that worked. There were the tours that didn't work. I brought from Italy the idea of having like a hydrospeed. Have you heard of hydrospeed? It's like a boogie board, and you have like a protection for your legs, and you kick, and so you're going on the river. It's very popular.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
That didn't work. And like that, like others, and that's a good thing. Like about entrepreneuring is like you try a lot of stuff that because it's your company and you decide.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that somebody is not gonna like your idea. Your ideas for you are the best ideas in the world. They're always gonna work. Oh, this is gonna work. Oh yes, and like like easily 70% don't.
Yeah.
Because people or either you didn't make the idea sail good, or like or they just don't like it.
How do you go about you mentioned pioneering. So like we're in a pretty remote, so let's describe what it's like to get here. So we drive about 15 minutes on a recently paved road, and then another 15 minutes up into the jungle, and you found a river here.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
first
like,
time,
tell me about how you do
the
that.
first time we came here, we didn't know, well, we didn't have permission to go through this, so we used the creek.
Okay.
And the creek ends on a waterfall, like, it's like, what is, like 40 feet?
Yeah.
40 feet waterfall, so like, it was like difficult to get down to the river the first day. We had like our mission with ropes and escalating and going around, and so we found our way down. And well, the first time you run this, it's like, even for people that come here to work, they come and run it for the first couple of days, and they're like, wow, this is crazy. Also because they usually do this when the river starts going down, and so that is December or January, but the river's still up, and like, there's big rapids here, big, nice rapids, and everybody gets like, like, wow, like impressed.
Yeah.
Then with time, you get used to it, and the water starts dropping, and you get used to the river. But like, yeah, doing a river for the first time, and it is intense.
So rafting's interesting, right? Because it's a river that's constantly changing. So how do you deal with that? Every one day the next, it can be very different, right?
One day the next can be different. You usually have a safety kayaker on the trip, and they go ahead and they let you know if anything has changed. If it's a big storm, then yes, we send a crew before we send a commercial trip. But in the usual day, like big rains, usually there's a kayaker on the trip, and that's enough. Like they handle.
And speaking of changes, what's changed in the rafting industry from when you first started?
Well, Chorro section is probably the most popular section to run now in the area. People come to run this section, and it's a very nice section, and it's fun to see how it grew out of nothing, out of what we started. And like how we were criticized back then, like, oh, you're running that, dangerous, so dangerous, so dangerous. And now everybody's here. So fun, so fun, so fun.
Singing a different tune.
Yeah.
What about just in general, like, from going from like the Macquarie River when you first started, um, is the technology pretty much the same? Have you seen a lot of changes in that within the industry?
Um, well, when we came here, we also brought like the small rafts. They were just coming out in the U.S. market, and like we brought small rafts, and so we were able to run this section, and that was probably like the most significant technology change. At that point, 2002, smaller rafts started getting in the market, and we bought them, and we started running this, and like so now we have like two fleets: the summer fleet and the rainy season fleet, because it significantly changed in the water levels when it starts raining, and so we use way bigger boats. So during the summertime, we use 11-foot boats, 11-foot rafts. During rainy seasons, 13, 14 feet.
So before 2002 with the small ones, or is this just like kind of the standard, I guess, like rafting raft that people expect that fits
It was 13, 14
six
feet.
people?
Exactly.
So let's talk about some milestones for the Eco Lodge. So day one, you've been coming here to put in the river, but like day one that it's yours.
Well, at that point, I still didn't think about this. It's what when I told you, like I came here and I saw this view, I'm like, oh, maybe I should bring people here and enjoy the view.
And what was it like the first tent that you put here?
That was
it
the
this
first
one over
tent,
there?
Yes.
And what was it like building that? Did you build that? Did you have someone come help you?
Yes, I'm not a builder. I have great ideas, but I need people. I need people with me. So the tent, I bought it, and we looked for a local maker. How do you call it? Maker? Local.
Yeah.
Yeah, builder.
A local builder. So like they're made in Costa Rica, and like so I try to support the local people, and then we use we use the rocks from the river because it's a cheaper option, and it helps. It works.
Looks nice.
It looks nice. And so I started. I was thinking of ways because I didn't have any money to build the furniture, and like I started using pallets. And so now all the wood that you see here is made out of pallets, and all the furniture from the tents, like the beds, the nightstands, everything is made out of pallets.
And at what point did you kind of come into the mix? Like, do you work with H2O at all, or you kind
Never.
of stay out of that?
We were, separate but together. Yeah, no, so Leo had this vision and started talking about what he was doing, but it didn't catch on right away. At that point, our friend, Dr. Don, was also part owner here. And so I kind of let them, they were doing their thing. And then kind of the same moment that I was on the boulder down in the river and Luna Vida hit, it was like, wait a minute, I think I'm ready to go all in with this as well. Like I kind of just saw it all happening at that point and decided that this was going to be like a family thing, somewhere where our kids were going to grow up and something we were going to leave to them. And so I kind of just dove in at the same time. And I think like he has so many good ideas about all the structures and the things like that. And then maybe I'm the one that does more of like the finishing touches, like the plants.
Super important.
Super
important.
It helps.
No, the finishing touches in a house are super important.
Yeah.
It's the same here. Like, it wouldn't be this without her. Yeah. And like the thing that Dr. Don was always willing to help, and he was always, I always told him like at some point I might want to buy you out, and he goes like no problem, anytime. And like when she was ready, he said yes. He sold us for like very fair price.
Very.
And like so
he understood.
Yeah. And so what plans does this place have for the future? I mean, do you plan on continuing to build more tents? Are you kind of happy with the amount you have here? What else are you looking to do here?
We're happy with 4 tents now. We want to push retreats, Um, and for now, that's it. Like we want to like the 4 tents that are here, like set them up real good and not like no flaws at all. Like all the little rocks or everything. We want to work this out. Like it's gonna be a beautiful place and yeah, like working retreats. That's in our future.
What kind of retreats do you have? Do you have anything coming up already, or anything you're focusing on in particular?
Well, I can do it. So, well, in the last year, I've been through my own journey with breast cancer. And, well, with the help of my husband and kids and friends, it was actually hasn't been as rough as I thought it was going to be. But, Jake, you can't cry. You gotta keep it together.
I'm glad you pointed out, so they know. It's him too.
So anyway, I have had a lot of inspiration during this time as well, and there's a lot of people in the U.S. that are doing really cool things with offering retreats to cancer survivors, and I was fortunate enough to meet with a really cool foundation in Northern California that works primarily with young adults who've been diagnosed with cancer, and they do adventure retreats. So it's like, they're surfing, they're biking, they're, in California, they're skiing. And I thought, you know what? I looked around and I was like, look at what we've built here with this Eco Lodge. Look at what we have with H2O. Look at what we have with Vida. We have the transport. It was like, it all just made sense. Like making a retreat here in this healing place for people who have gone through what I've gone through just made all the sense in the world. It was just like this. So we have our first retreat on the books in January, and I hope to really take advantage of the summer months. It's just so beautiful up here. I mean, it's beautiful year round, but when you can really swim in the river and everything, and provide retreats, 6-day, 5-night retreats up here using the Eco Lodge and our 2 companies and the experiences. And we also have a lot of friends in this area that are doing so many cool things with, so many cool things, chocolate and yoga and forest bathing and all, just cooking classes, all sorts of things that we can incorporate. So really just looking forward to that a lot as healing, for not only the participants, but maybe for myself as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me going there.
Sorry. I thought that might happen. But I did it.
Yeah.
I made it through it.
We did it.
Yeah, was that just like a shining light? Like, how did you met this person and she starts talking, and do you just like see? I mean, I feel like you just listed everything that you like to do, regardless of this place. You're like, biking, surfing, rafting.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's basically like my daily life.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I have this place here.
Right. It was just like, wow. It was actually a friend of mine from San Francisco, old friend of mine, who she was like, I have this friend who does this, and maybe you should talk to her. And it was like 24 hours later, we were in a Zoom meeting, and she was like, we've been wanting to do something international. You should talk to your family, make sure that you really want to do this, and let's go for it. And so since that moment, it's just been this beautiful progression. And
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Have you had any like yoga retreats here before?
We had, just like we had like some a local overnight one that my friend Carrie Michi organized, and was really beautiful. We had like a lot of the local women that live here, and a few that had come from the outside as well. We did just like an overnight experience, and it was magical. Yeah, really cool.
So given like your cancer diagnosis, what effects did that have on like this place, Luna Vida?
Well, obviously, I slowed down a lot with work. I mean, I have, Leo and other guides that have been helping me kind of run the tours and things like that. The idea was to keep moving forward, but not really putting a ton of attention and money into like growth. We just kind of wanted to like let this process kind of happen and get through it, as best we could. And then now that I'm kind of coming out of like the active treatment time, it's, I don't know, I feel pretty darn inspired to grow and do more powerful things, and especially focused on helping others and healing. I think there's just so much to be said there.
Did you find, like, even working as like an escape from what you were dealing with?
I guess I never really thought about it that way. It was like you have a major shift in your perspective when something like this happens, right? And it was more just like following the light, I guess. Like wherever the light was, that's what I did. That's what I focused on. So it's pretty beautiful, actually. A lot of unexpected beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a really nice hummingbird over there.
Yeah.
So looking back now on like all the experience that you've had here with Luna Vida, H2O, if there was one piece of advice that you'd have to give yourself, what would it be?
You're doing okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think about my life, man. I enjoyed every second of it, and I regret some things, but I think everything that I did wrong brought me here to my family now, and like it made me the person that I am. I'm really happy with where I am right now, and I was happy then with where I was, but like now that I see back, yes, I probably, I don't know, honesty, a little bit more honesty.
What do you mean? You're honest?
Yes, I am now. I'm proud and honest.
I guess, just keep following the instinct that you have, right? Like, I don't know, I guess I would just continue to have that voice in my head, like just follow that.
And is that, similar advice as someone who's just starting or want to start their business, or do you have something else that you think would be beneficial to them?
I think a business plan it's it's good to sit down and write your ideas, and like the business plan, it's also like scheduled, like to organize better what you want to do, and like I think it's basic, and it doesn't have to be for the world. You write for yourself, and then you check on it every once in a while to see how you're doing.
I think for me, because I'm a newer entrepreneur, one of the like big aha moments for me was like, oh my gosh, like if I can dream it, I can make it happen. I had never done anything. I had never worked by myself, and I had seen him kind of like always like dreaming up stuff, and some of them flew and some of them didn't, but I was like, wow, that must be like, I didn't understand that feeling, always having like a boss and like, having to do things the way somebody else was asking me. I mean, there was freedom in my previous jobs for sure, but to have like the absolute freedom to follow whatever your mind, I mean, that's so cool. It was like this new creative thing for me that I had never really had in my life as far as like my work, where you just go for it. What, you think that sounds good? Yeah, that would be my advice to somebody. Like if it sounds really good to you and you feel like the power behind it, you should go for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And where can we find you guys? Online, Instagram, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're both on.
H2O Adventures Costa Rica is like Instagram and Facebook, or H2OCR.com. It's a webpage.
And Luna Vida is Luna Vida Adventures, and this place is Chorro _Eco Lodge. Yeah.
Thank you for watching this episode of Bizpirations. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you're ready when the next episode comes out in 2 weeks. We'll see you then.